So I'm going to admit all, and we can just continue to chat in front of people, as it were. Good morning, Gram Risings. Waiting room is going up and going down at the same time. It's quite a strange thing to watch.
Here we are.
Admit all.
Glad to have you on tonight, Trevor. Very much so.
From what I understand, when you're recording, you don't get the people that are there with their videos, their images and stuff. Normally, it's just the people that are talking.
Yeah, correct.
From experience in the past, so as long as that setting is correct, just so folks know that they're not being recorded. I can see a few people I know.
Of course you can.
G'day, folks. How you doing?
63.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome. So guys, just if you've just joined us, we're pretty sure on the video rendering your faces are not going to be recorded. But if you want to turn off your cameras, please do so. This isn't going to be a interactive session. We've got too many on it for that. So there's no call to have your cameras on, and please do mute your microphones as well. We're going to have 3 speakers, marginally myself and Rachel, and then we're going to hand over to Trevor for the rest of this deeply interesting session. So do turn your cameras off or change your names if you're worried about any of that. I'm pretty sure it won't turn up on YouTube. We're all agreed that we're entering the point of the spiritual war where it just doesn't matter anyway. So to my mind, keep your cameras on, let them know you're on the side of the light, and kind of do that to them. That's what I tend to do most days. It's all good fun. Jude is finishing off her dinner, so she's going off screen. That's fantastic. Thank you for the update, Jude.
And anyone got questions, put them in the chat. Ben will feed them at the end.
So I will do my best talk show host impression, as long as they're not rude and they don't have poopy language in. And please no potty mouthing on the chat. I will. That will make me sad because I don't know how to deal with potty mouths. I'm joking. I've got a 3.5-year-old daughter. She's just learnt the word poop. It's fantastic. And she'll learn more because she's got me as a father. Right, we've reached my target here, so we're going to start. We are recording now. So as I said, please do turn off your screens if you're at all worried about being identified by the Chinese intelligence services, the Vatican, or whoever, or worse than that, YouTube and big tech. So my name is Ben Hawkes. I'm one of the co-founders of the Ley Love Down movement, and I'm delighted to have with me here Rachel Vaughan, the other co-founder, and frankly the clever one and driving force of it. And we've got Trevor Wee as well, who's going to do a session with us on intuitive sensing. I just wanted to give you an update on what we're up to here at Ley Love Down. At the moment, we're working to answer 2 questions. The big 2 questions that we get asked in emails, Facebook comments, YouTube comments, etc., etc. Please do mute your microphone if that's okay. What you're saying is wonderful. Actually, I can't work out what you're saying. It's just indiscriminate noise. But it's going to be a lot easier if you do mute your microphone. So please do. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you, please. So the 2 questions that we get asked here all the time are, where are the ley lines? Where can I find them? And what do I do when I get there? So the first question, where are the ley lines? We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to build a database on the back end of the Ley Love Down website, which will be a repository for all ley line information sightings from members and also from open source. So we've taken on a webmaster, the wonderful Cherie, who's currently working on that. And in a bombshell of synchronicity, a couple of days ago, we had a project manager who was rolled out. I won't say global because that'll probably get me in trouble. Earthbound, earthwide projects in technology who's going to come on board and help us build this massive tool, which will help you guys find ley lines and do the work. And we've also got a call with a guy in Switzerland on Friday who already has a database of ley line and portal locations in the world. So there's a lot going on there. Now, the second question is, what do I do when I get there? And that's ultimately what this session is about today. So Trevor's been around since God was a boy. He'll introduce himself. And is that statement true? I'm not sure. Trevor will probably answer that. But he's going to answer the question, what to do when we get there. And what we're going to do is work that between me, Rachel, and Trev and others. We're going to work that into some sort of standard operating procedure for no marks and low lives and ignoramuses like me as to what we can do when we get on the ley lines, as opposed to just standing agog that the world is so wonderful and beautiful, which is generally what I do when I get there. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel to give a bit of an introduction to Trevor and to add a bit of, frankly, intelligence to what I've just said. So Rachel, over to you, my love. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your love. Thank you for intent. Let's do some great work. So Rachel, I'll hand over to you and I'll mute myself.
Thank you, Ben. And I would have to say that Ben's actually the brains behind this, because I can go and talk about ley lines, but I could not set up the website and everything that he's doing, because he's the tech person behind all of the important stuff and getting these amazing people in to help and to basically, we can't just do it together. It's impossible. This has to be a big group effort. So we've got 2 people on board, which is brilliant. And we had a masterclass. Many of you would have watched that on the 13th of June. We were absolutely blessed to have Trevor come in at the end and share some of his wisdom, and it just blew everybody away. Trevor, I can't tell you how many people have contacted me either on socials or by email or through my course, just to say how much they are looking forward to speaking with you and hearing what you have to say. So I really appreciate you coming on. So Trevor is in the very high point of the Northern Territory, as far as I know. He has incredible wisdom. So what you're going to learn today is, I guess, original people's wisdom. I don't know what terminology to use, but I hope that's okay. And I'm just going to sit back and be as quiet as I can so I can learn as much as I possibly can. So again, if you can keep yourself muted, that would be very much appreciated. And I just want to say thank you to all the beautiful familiar faces that I can see. Thank you for being here. All right, Trevor, it's over to you.
Thanks, Rachel and Ben, and welcome everybody. G'day. Some of these folks already know me, so anyway, I'm unable to see full screen of what I'm going to be showing behind me, so it may be, there might be a little bit of delays when I'm changing slides. For those that don't know me, I'm just going to do a really quick background to me, because I think it's probably important to some. I'm a non-bloodline adoptee lineal original person. That's just a long speak for anyone who's into formal stuff. How that happened, some of you may have seen on the website or another place how that happened. Father to me arrived in Darwin in 1946 in the undercarriage of a DC-3, almost dead, an illegal immigrant in the Keep Australia White policy, to be deported back to Indonesia. When he's out of hospital, everyone in Darwin said, no way. Trainee nurse, young Aboriginal girl, Auntie Jane Christopherson, adopted dad blackfell away, as you would, look after someone who needs looking after. Got out of hospital, lived with the administrator of the Northern Territory. 3 years later, he took a posting to Egypt. He said the incoming administrator should not be encumbered with this issue of looking after this boy. They scrambled to get him into the community. Their sentiment was that he should be with people of skin colour to him. All the blackfella mob wanted to adopt him, but they were not people. They were flora and fauna. And Auntie Bertha Kibilo had married an Englishman around about that time, or at that time. And now she's not a flora or fauna, she's a person, because she's married to an Englishman. So she could sign a formal Westminster document of adoption. Mother to me, Caucasian. She was the only white person I saw on a daily basis until I went to primary school. And Dad being well loved, and we just walked through all the blackfella camps. Darwin in those days, it was bush pretty much where we were in the northern suburbs, and all the mob being brought from Isa to Alice to Broome to Darwin for mission business at Bagger Reserve, and they had all these bush camps, because we're in the missions. They're not allowed out at the missions, but when they go to Darwin, they're a little bit freer. So they had all these bush camps. So that's where I picked up a lot of the stuff. And then when I was 16 and 17, I had an elder out in the area, which is now referred to as Kakadu National Park, give me, he sat me down and he told me some things, and I had the out-of-body experience there, so I knew it was significant, though I didn't know what the significance was. At any rate, what he had done is he had transferred some law to me. Not everyone gets all law, so it's hierarchy. You get mob learn this bit of law, or mob keep this bit of law, or right lineage keep this bit of law, and so everyone's working together as it should be. No, you may have had veto on some issues if, or power veto on some issues if it was, warranted, but generally they all work together. Anyway, so I was 6 years of age when I was first cognitive of the sentient ability that I had, and I still remember what happened very, very well. And then after that, I just built, and I've been doing knowledge transfer, or engaged in knowledge transfer, since 2000 with natural law and the original people social psychology system, and also convening intuitive sensing workshops, because intuitive sensing is a very important part of beingness. In other words, more than your 5 waking senses. I had a list of around about 23 that went to 27. Another lady on Rachel's telegram there just said she got one with, I think it was 33. And they're the physical senses we're talking about. So you got more than the 5 waking senses in the physical realm. And then there's the other ones that science were unable to study for a long, long time. The ancients knew about them, but we're talking about modern science here. And they're the intuitive senses, although they are being studied to some degree now with an Institute of Noetic Sciences. So that's ions. So they're mob that get into that sort of stuff. The key to this is that when we're incarnate here, whether we're a rock, a plant, or part of the water, or part of the sky, or a human, or any other animal, what we got to learn is what is helpful and what is harmful. So if you're only using 5 waking senses and you are being led or misled by one of the rigid, inappropriately controlling pyramid hierarchy constructs on this planet, well, you're basically you're going to stick with the 5 waking senses. A lot of people don't talk about the other stuff because of the fear of ostracization and, all sorts of stuff, because in the old days you come out with that. Well, they had like knives, and then swords, and then spears, and then guns, and then bombs, and they just don't want people to be into human beings. So many of the folks on here will know what we're talking about. It's a narrative that's easily goes back 7,500 years, and some people push back to around 22,000 years. So there's whatever you think is right for you, that's okay, but it's been going on for a long time. The original people on this continent been working with the song lines. I'm going to talk more about the difference between song lines, ley lines, and whatever. But we've been working with the song lines since as long as we know. We got stuff painted in artworks here around 25,000 years old with all of this information in it. I think Michael Tellinger in South Africa got something there where these mob already know about, the plasma inside you and all the rest of it. And so those mob over there, I think they put a 12,000 year date on that. But anyway, a lot of native cultures know what's going on in terms of human beingness. And it's about staying safe in the physical environment. And it's about being aware that while we're here, we are only in this 3rd dimension, and there are other facets. This is only one facet, actually, of greater consciousness to us. But while we're here, it's very important, and I'll talk a little bit about natural law, but the law of correspondence, okay, as within, so without. It's very important that while we are here, we are doing the best we can for the good of all at all times. Because whatever we do here, and I'll talk about vibrations affecting all other vibrations, what we do here will have an effect on something else, somewhere else. When you have a law, look at the law of reciprocity, you folks, we call it comeback in Pidgin, you folks will know the word karma. Okay, so this is a real thing. It's one of the natural laws. So we do what we do because it's right. The original people here been singing into the song line for 10,000 years, and what they're singing, there's a lot of different ceremony on different lines, and then you got the vortexes with the border on them as well, and different ceremony going on there, because not all vortexes are the same. I'll get into more into that in a moment. But you break it all down, and the essence is what they're singing is for the continuance of the harmonics and of the balance of the natural world, because we are in this third dimension a part of this natural world, and they are syncretic thinkers. So how that works is when you look at the rock, the sky, the water, the trees, all the animals and you come together to form the whole, then you know that together you are whole, and then you know that whatever you do to anything else, you're invariably doing to self. Okay. The diacratic mindset, it's a subset of the syncretic, runs through the reptilian cortex, and it focuses on polar opposites. Very good for flight or fight, but unfortunately it's very easy to control or program with fear, and they have taken that out and made it the overlord on this planet, while dumbing people down to accessing the full range of sensibilities that they have. Okay, so that's just a little bit of context of where we're at here before we actually get into the mechanisms of the song lines first. I appreciate some of this may be new to some of you. Some of you may already know it all, and you may even know more than me. That's all good. It's no right or wrong. It can be same but different, and we all learn from each other. Anyway, I just gonna cover off. Other than that, in circles to you, you may have people that are doubtful about these things for whatever reason. That's all good. With what I'm presenting here, even if you are very conversant with it, or you may hear something which enables you to explain something easier to somebody who hasn't got it yet. And if they're not getting it, it doesn't matter. That's business to them. That's life path to them. So don't be distracted by attempting to convince other people, because the focus is on what we are doing in beingness as individuals. Okay, that doesn't mean you're unable to help assist others, but I've seen sometimes where people get very distracted by that and then stop being selves to them. I think you probably get what I'm talking about there. Now, I'm going to mention a little bit with intuitive sensing as we go through. This is not an intuitive sensing session per se. On country, they go for around about 4 hours after a previous day of doing all the intro stuff, theory stuff. And online, I do them 3 by 2 hour sessions. And again, a lot of people already know the stuff. It's all good. So that's going to be, a pretty clinical presentation, though I will be putting in some anecdotal stories that are experiences to me. No point telling somebody else's stories. Now, there are energy shifts at the moment, and all ancient cultures knew it was coming in this period of time. There's a whole lot of different narratives out there. What's going to happen? If you ask me, I don't know. Okay, I just observe, because that's blackfellow way. Just observe. We got this expression I grew up with. It's all just business. Just watch that fella. The minute you chase that fella, you might get other business you didn't want. And I read other stories about gurus and things saying really long stories, and at the end, you get it. You just observe. But I love the blackfellow expression. In a very short phrase, they're telling you, 1, just observe, and 2, the reasons why. Anyway, I'm sure you appreciate what I'm saying there. You might get business that you didn't want. So these energy changes are coming through. Are affecting ability to tap into the greater range of sensibilities for a lot of people that hadn't been in this groove previous. And for those who have already been in it, has taken their acuity level upwards or expanded it. Okay, I'm going to give an example in a moment of something that happened to me last year. So the thing is that younger people, or they don't have to be younger, but often it is younger people, and they're coming and they're going, oh, this is happening, this is happening. They can be a little bit disconcerted or unsure of selves to them. Are they hallucinating or whatever? So as long as you're not near 5G, there's less probability that you're being altered. I'm not going to put the previous two letters in there, but you will, hopefully you folks know what I'm talking about, that you're being altered, yeah? And there's two letters that come before that. That's just my way of putting it, all right? And so it's more probable, if you're not near 5G, that you are actually experiencing real phenomena. So, and that's, you know, phenomena in the conscious dimension, not necessarily in the third dimension, although for some it could be as well. Now, I'm just going to cover a personal one that happened to me last year, just to I don't know, just to, you know, so it's more personal before I get into the really clinical stuff. Up until this time last year, I had around about 35 out-of-body experiences that were such that by the time I had the third and then fourth one, I knew that if you get it again, you know something significant is happening. You've met someone who's going to be very significant in life to you in terms of shaping attitudes and or, you know, bringing knowledge to shape right attitude, or an event that you see, but more often it's been people. And I was very familiar with morphing vortices. I'd taken probably around about 100 ready persons into these. By ready, I mean at a certain level. And we're going in there not for a party, a wow factor. We're going in there for experience, for realization, what can actually take place within the the realm of phenomena. I was trying to say phenomenological, but anyway, the realm of phenomena. And it's all, you know, that's all about light interplay in that. And I've also connected with others at memory transfer level that suggested past life connections. Now, whether you're into the narrative of past life or not, I'm not particularly neither there nor there, but I just stand next to some people sometimes and I just get all this stuff and it floods in and I go, oh, and I go, okay, well, there is a connection within some of you may have seen the anatomy of the anemone of memory metaphor that I draw. And basically you're going back down into core where all data is, and you're tapping into something, whether it is actually you in the past or you just tuned into that particular radio dial or not. That's a very, that's a very important thing about past life stuff. You don't always know if it's you or not, but then you have to go to intuition, not trying to second guess it with logic, just intuition. If it felt that it was, then it probably was. And again, you have to subscribe to the narrative of past life as well. So this time last year, I was in a company of two persons for around about 4 hours in total, maybe a bit more, briefly in the morning and about 3.5 hours in the afternoon, evening. And during this period with these two people, I had 30 out-of-body experiences accompanying size morphing and also a few downloads from the memory field. Okay. So, as I said before, around 35 up until this time last year. Now in a 4.5 hour period, I got like 30. And I remember them because as soon as I got home, I just write, and I had to get it all down. And even in the morning, oh, I forgot this detail, forgot that detail, but I got the main things down. Okay. So, and another thing with this is that I spoke with a very close friend of mine who astral travels, not in his sleep. He's conscious, okay? He goes from New South Wales to Victoria. He rings a mob up from New South Wales and he says, oh, and he tells them stuff. And they go, how do you know that? And he says, well, I was just there. Okay, now this is validated by the mob in Victoria and all the rest of it. But just to give you an idea what his capabilities are. And we had several discussions over time. And then with everything that we knew together collectively, I formed the hypothesis that the three toroidal fields of the three individuals combined to create a mobile morphing vortex. Was a hypothesis. 4 weeks ago, one fella, he just called me just before the Zoom started as well. He said, "Oh, I became aware of these mob in Fitzroy Crossing or near Fitzroy Crossing, and they do that with intent. They using their core plasma field, and they're joining their toroidal fields together and creating this effect with intent." Well, what happened to me, there was no intent. The other persons I know that, well, I'm pretty sure they didn't get, that they, because I was doing a natural law thing after dinner presentation, and I brought up the issue of out of body experiences and morphing, no change in the aura. They're just sort of listening. And then I was starting to get downloads with connecting to them. So I thought, okay, but I'm pretty sure they weren't getting it, but it doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there. Obviously, the experience for me. But the thing that really blew me away was there was no intent. It just happened. Like once I talked to this other fella 4 weeks ago and worked out that these mob do it with intent. Well, for me, it just happened. So that's an example of what I was referring to with the energy shifts. There are more things opening up for other people. So that's a personal example to me, and other, particularly younger people have been connecting with me and saying, "Oh, we've had this. Well, what is this? No, that's all good. It's all good," and break it down into symbols and whatever. So, I mean, if you feel humbugged, I'm going to talk about this later. If you feel humbugged, get out of there. But if it doesn't feel like humbug, just observe. Okay, you're going to be learning something, hopefully. All right. And we've come into contact with a lot of folks on this continent who've connected with the originals from the past in the ether. So they're not actually standing there in the physical form, but they're standing there, and it's like you can just touch them and all the rest of it. And why I'm talking about this stuff is because it's relevant to the memory field and the song lines and the ley lines, because that's all connected. They're all the dots that are connected. Okay. So in the past, and if they're standing there, well, they're in the memory field, but they also know how at the spirit level, the greater consciousness level, how to project back in here to the third dimension. There are a lot of entities that can actually do that, but when these mob are doing it, the ones I'm talking about, they are beneficial. Again, if you feel there's malice, ill intent, well, just get out of there, because the intuition's telling you shouldn't be there. Okay. But at any rate, so all right, now I refer not to lineal time, so I use the term waypoint, and we're at a waypoint in this cycle, and this cycle has been going backwards and forwards. And I'm going to be using some terminologies that I just made up over the years, and you get people like Rory Duff and Michael Tellinger, for example. They're using all the electronic instruments, and they got different terms. And I'm not saying, one is right or wrong, but I may be using terms that don't actually correlate directly to terms they're using. But I have had a look at some of the stuff that they do, and where possible, I'll be as clear as possible where possible. So now, when we're doing this work on a memory field, what we're doing is we're inputting a vibration, same as what I already described with the original people, to maintain the continuance of harmonics and balance. Okay, that all comes out of the principle of care. Now that becomes the natural law of care, and that's the feminine generative principle. The first two principles, I'm going to have a slide on this anyway, so I'll get back to that later. The first two principles, they all manifest simultaneously. The first two are mentalism and care. But at any rate, when we're doing this work, we're doing it with no expectations, and I'll bring that up again later. Okay, in other words, no ego expectations that there's going to be a specific outcome. We are doing this because it's right. Because we know about the law of reciprocity. We know about the law of correspondence. And we don't want to be putting humbug in there and getting the comeback. All these other mobs think they're going to be exempt because they got this thing that they develop secrets in plain sight. Well, hang on, you can tell people stuff and they don't get it. And you think, well, because they don't object, they consent. It's not the same thing because you've done it with deceit. Okay. So they're going to get the comeback. And that's what's happening in this time and space now in this waypoint. How quick? Don't know. Be in the heart, stay in the heart, and that's business to them. They're all us anyway, unless they're actually androids, bots. But anyway. All right, I'm going to break this into 3 parts, and Rachel or Ben, you give me an indicator when I'm 15 minutes out, something like that, and I'll just row faster. Okay, so and you got the access to the recording afterwards as well, folks. So if I do start speaking really quickly, you can listen back later, whatever. Okay, part A, I'm going to cover the energy types and memory field, what it is, and information. Okay, part B, I'll be covering detect, decipher, decide, and safety. And efficacy. And part C, the songline intent, and particularly with the Ley Love Down. That'll be very short because the picture will have already been drawn in part A and part B, pretty much. So with the energy, vibration, vibratory fields, they have amplitude, tone, frequency, couple other things. They're the main important things here. And we are immersed, we as human beings, or in the third dimension, anything in this third dimension, are immersed in 2 types of vibration: conscious vibration and physical vibration. Just before I change the slide here, behind me is an image of where a songline comes through onto the coast. This is where I grew up, and 500 meters from here approximately is where I was meditating around about 6 years of age. No one told me how to do that. This is all just stuff that happened intuitively. And then 40 years later, I was in a guy's place, and he pulled out this video and showed me fractal geometry. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that's all the stuff I saw while I was sitting on this songline, like 30 years before computers, or at least 20 years before computers. But Mandelbrot and all the fractal geometry stuff sort of, didn't get manifested digitally until a long time later. But anyway, that's the songline there. Now, this songline here are about 2.5 kilometers beyond this.
Trevor, can I cut across you, buddy? I'm sorry to speak over you.
Yeah.
I've got you set up as host, but I don't think you're sharing your screen currently. So if you've got a slide you're referring to, we can't see it. So could you?
No, I don't need to share screen.
You don't. Okay, so you don't.
I had said that to Rachel. Maybe, yeah. I don't need to share screen.
No, fine. All right, buddy. Yeah? No dramas. Ignore me. I'll go back to silence.
No, all good. All good. Okay, so about 2.5 kilometers from here, at this point, is where this songline joins into the main songline from Uluru through to Bali. And so this is where I do work. Okay, so when I'm putting intent into the songline, it's in this area here. Okay, so can you see that one now? The screen, the background screen for me?
Sorry,
Ben?
Yes, we can. Sorry, buddy. So
yeah, okay, yeah. So
Trevor is being something. He's being something we call very clever. So if you want to pin him, if you pin him, he'll get bigger. So you get Big Trevor, and behind him you'll see all his slides. So he doesn't have to share his screen, because if we turn on share screen, the Chinese intelligence services have an absolute ball. So just pay attention to what.
And people hijack it. They book in, and anyway, too long story. All right, I should have had this one at the beginning. We're acknowledging all ancestors and all societies that have acted as stewards to safeguard valuable knowledge for human beingness, and if you're in Australia, particularly for the acknowledgement of the original mob on country here, but wherever you are, mob, you know, whether you're Celtic or not Native American or in Borneo or whatever, you know, there's always been mob that have safeguarded knowledge, right knowledge. Okay. All right. You are free to be you. So within the auspices of morals and ethics, you're free to be you, and resetting the memory field. So this is where we're at the moment. They've been suppressing humanity and oppressing and suppressing. And the key is that we've always been putting stuff in the memory field. That songline, which I just showed a minute ago, if you come to Darwin, it's the happiest place in town. Everyone goes there, walks their kids, plays their kids, come watch sunset, sunrise. And because we've been singing that and keeping it clean, okay? And you will get places that there's so much dross in it, and I'll be covering them later, that you might not want to work directly nearby. You might want to move further down the line, and I'll cover more of that in a minute. Resetting memory field. Natural law never changes. We did all that before. Now, information, they're all the data packets that go into the memory field. And I didn't put a one slide in here. I missed it, but I developed this thing it's a story I called the anatomy of the anemone of memory. Because one guy asked me one day, what did I think about this past life stuff? I said, I had no idea, but like within 3 seconds, I said, oh, and I drew this picture on the ground of a sea anemone. And I said, you know, there's all these sensory tips at the end of each tentacle. That's you. You have an experience. The data goes down the tentacle into the core, and from every other tentacle, same thing. And plus data transfers from sensory tip to sensory tip, back and forwards as well. So this core, because for Aboriginal mob, it's all internal, okay? There's no looking outward for sabership or any of this stuff, you know. It's the social psychology system is promoting the development of the greatest self-control that you can for each individual to contribute to hierarchy within the group. And, you know, that gives you self-governance, self-realization, self-efficacy, self-agency, self-dependency, and, you know, all these things that are appropriate to self. Anyway, so the information there going down to core, and when I said before, you may go down into core, and if you're not really knowing what you want to tune into or whatever, you could tune in into anything that's not necessarily relative to you. But this is also another way of how certain aspects of intuition work, because you've got all different layers to the aura as well, and you have intuitive feeds through those. I'll get more into the body stuff in a minute. The detect, decipher, and decide. Now, because the laws, the natural laws, they come up simultaneously, and there's probably a couple more there, and then the secondary laws, but there's 2 very principal ones: mentalism and care. As sound causes form. Okay, mentalism is, as growing up, I learned that through stories. That why I'm getting into early teens, I'm putting English words onto what they're telling me, and I came up with detect, decipher, decide. Then it wasn't 2019 that I come across this guy doing a presentation, and he's using the term mentalism. I thought it was pretty easy to say. So anyway, so I've been using that. But what, you know, detect, you become aware of something, you've detected it. Then you got to decipher it. That's mindfulness. You got to categorize it. So that you can apply conscious intent, know what to do about it. Okay, so some people say consciousness or mindfulness or awareness, and they sort of lump it all into one thing. But the Aboriginal way was clear: detect, decipher, decide. Quite amusing, you know, when elders are going, "Hey, that's the detection. What, that fella? That's the deciphering. Ah, he's all right. That's the deciding." Okay, so you learn those anyway. The care. If you got an article that comes into being, and it can't come into being unless there's a memory field, which we're going to cover in a moment, but an article that comes there, and it's going to detect, decipher, decide. Why? Because you've got the attitude of care. So you've got mentalism, but you've got the attitude there. So, and that's actually a principle which becomes a law. Because if you didn't care, you didn't need to detect, decipher, or decide. And the care is the feminine generative principle. Don't know whether I explained that too well, but I hope you watch it back again later and hopefully you get it. All memory has the ability to affect anything else that comes after to some degree or another. So when I'm talking about some of the sites, I'm going to get back to that one. There's an example of a toroidal field, which every atom has, your body has, the plants, the animals, the planet, probably the solar system, probably the universe and the multiverse, wherever you want to take it. But anyway, in the third dimension, in the, the smaller items, solar toroidal field and plasma involved there. So the toroidal field and the memory field is where data storage is, the information, the packets of data that form syntaxes that cause something to come into form. And in the Earth system, the toroidal field, we look at telluric currents and the skeletal system and the fluid system. I'm going a bit fast here, but I'm going to get into the detail of these as we go, okay? So some of you will be aware of this. This is available on the web. What's that called there? The Higgs. Oh, no, that's the Becker-Hagens one, okay? So there's a couple of different versions of them, but I refer to this as the skeletal system of the songline stuff, ley lines, dragon lines, because they're straight lines. You can get a add-on for GE, and there's Australia. So you see where the nodes are on that other one, the black and white one, and you see in Australia there's one node will pin a pound. You see all those lines come together? That's the only node on the Australian continent. And then above, up near New Guinea there, you got another node, then out to, the west and out to the east, etc. Okay. So you can put this on GE and you can zoom around and find out some really interesting things in area where you are. I don't have the link or the name for this. And someone told me they attempted to put this on their system a couple of years ago and they couldn't get the link to work. But, and I've actually got it on an old computer, which the battery's dead, and I've got to have the fan on it so that it doesn't die, blow up on me and everything else. So I'm unable to use it at the moment, but I use the standard GE and I just look, and what I'm looking for is topography, and a topography going to tell you a lot about where major vortexes are anyway. So I'm going to come more into that later. So vortex is a form where you got lines of energy come together. Can be two lines crossing or can be multiple lines coming crossing. So, like there's a confluence and then you get a vortex. Okay. There are many different types of vortexes. All portals are vortexes. Not all vortexes are portals. Just want to point that out because I see in some of the chats there, people are asking questions or talking about certain things. At any rate, at the least, that's how we use the term here, the English term here for us mob, right? Because a portal is the one you can actually go through. You can translocate through it. Okay. I've been through a portal from the eastern seaboard of Australia and come out in South America. And that was validated by the guy whose property I was on. He knew it was there, and he told me to go in, on the spring equinox or whatever. So I did, and he's saying keep going, and I said no, I've gone far enough. I came back out and I described to him what I saw, and he goes, oh, and he goes up into his attic. This is in a rural, remote, bush place, right? He goes up to the attic, rummages through all his photos, and he pulls out this photo, and because I drew what I saw on a piece of paper. And explaining it to him, and he pulls out this photo. It's almost the exact same angle of this photo that he took where they don't take you. Because he could sense he was on this guided tour, and you got to follow the tour, but he wanted to go over the hill to the left, and he thought, oh, well, I'll book the same tour the next day, wait till they get way ahead, then I'll go over the hill. And that's what he did. And he got these photos, so they're not published in books, but this is a really distinct thing there. Anyway, that's a story, all right? And the thing is, we don't go out and we look for these things. I mean, serendipitously, synchronistically, you know what I'm trying to say. The things that we're meant to experience for growth, we will. Okay, so I don't go chasing these things. Like they just happen, and that's very blackfellow way. Anyway, we've got a lot of different vortexes. The morphing vortexes I mentioned earlier, which I've taken a lot of people into in the Eastern Seaboard, quite a few people, so that they can experience that morphing is a real thing. And you look at some. I don't watch movies since around about 1980, I stopped watching movies when I realized that how much rubbish was embedded in it. I don't know, just intuitively, I just knew there's a lot of stuff wrong on this planet. That's just me. Stopped listening to music, or the live music, which is, the right hertz and everything else is all good, but all that what do you call that, pop music stuff, there was just so much rubbish in there. Like humbug stuff, for human beingness. And people just didn't know. The point was that a lot of these movies, because people send me clips of things, they're showing you all this stuff about morphing and everything else, And I remember coming out of one of the last movies I went to see, and all these people go, "Oh, that's great science fiction." I'm looking at them going, "Hang on," they think it's science fiction. They think there's fiction. There was things that were shown, like the story was fictionalized, storylines fictionalized, but there's stuff in there that's actually real. But they didn't get it. And that's all good. As I said before, everyone's on life path to them. Now, the songline system, ley line system, dragon line system, whatever you want to refer to, because there are different components to it, is a natural system within Earth where information is stored within memory. Okay. And they made a synthetic version of that, and it's called a computer, and it works on your phone and everything else. And it's a real thing. But it only works when the power is on, and the natural system is always working. So we got conscious intent, we're singing on the lines, and we're putting that intent into the memory field where it's stored, and it has the ability to affect anything else that come after to some degree or another. And I'll come back to this point later. Okay. With a computer, the conscious intent is telling the fingers to go onto the keyboard, which is analog, and that it goes down, created to digital, and then it's the silicon chip, which is doing all the processing stuff, also involved to at some level with the storage system as well. And as I said, it only works when the power's on. So, and it's all digital, but this is exactly the same as what's happening in the Earth, but that's a digitalized version. And silicon is the most abundant element in the Earth's crust. So all native cultures knew Mother Earth as being a big memory field. Like, that's a modern term that I've put on it. They've got different labels for whatever, but it's a memory field. Even if you look at drumming and the Chinese New Year, where they got firecrackers and drumming, with the big gongs, what they're doing is they want to fragment all the dross, all the kaka frequency, all the kaka data, so that it can be dispersed and go back into the universal scheme of things. So they're doing that with intent. You get a computer and it does the same thing. The delete doesn't do anything. You got to get a shredding tool and it's going bash, 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 bash to defragment the syntaxes, to actually get rid of it. Like that's same but different. Now I'm going to go into this little thing here with a law story, LORE, and I'm allowed to share this because it's law that was transferred to me. And so that's fine. It's business to me to share this. It's responsibility to me, actually, to share this. And I'll probably just go through the mechanics first, and then I'll if I remember, I'll tell you what happened. So we spoke about the circle, and that's the feminine generative principle of care. So it's a receptive shape. There's a little one of it, and there's a little one inside of a big one. Okay. And we're referring to that as core. So this law story, LORE, everything is there. That's what the circle represents. Everything, including all potential. What we're talking about, looking at here, is cyclic. And it's infinite. But for the purpose of a story, we need a starting point. So the starting point is the first fella comes in, unable to see self, wonders if self exists, then realizes the potential if it makes another one of self, can see self. So it expresses self out onto the edge of the radiant field and create another one with a same size radiant field around it. Some of you will see straight away, this is the beginning of sacred geometry. This is all engraved here and painted here, 18,000 to 25,000 years, the oldest that we can put on it. And at any rate, so you create another one there, and then this, he saw the path that it made and knew where to go back. What are they telling you? They're defining the article of memory right in the very beginning of third dimensional manifestation. You have the article of memory. If the article, because he saw where he came from, he wouldn't have realized if he came from there unless he had memory. Okay, the article of memory is there right in the beginning of the story, and until you have memory, the third dimension cannot come into being, nor can it persist in being. Okay, because you need memory of the data to know what the information is. What the data that's going to cause that thing to come into form has to be stored somewhere. That's the memory field. Okay, so when we're talking about these song lines, ley lines, dragon lines, whichever you want to refer them to, it's the memory field. This is a law story. And that is actually the dream. Okay, the third dimension come out of conscious dimension. So we've got the dream, we live in the dream. The dreaming is continuous. You have personal dreaming, and there's too much to go into in this session, but I thought I'd just put that in there anyway, so you get a bit of a scope. So we've got the memory in the memory field and the song lines. Causality. Now, it's really intent is the program, if you like, or the software, and the hardware is plasma, and that's way too deep to sort of cover in here as well. But for any that you want to research that, it's the core. That's why I always refer to the core, and it's within. Okay, and the reason I put this in now is because when we are gonna talk about song lines and what we're doing on them and the intent, and leave the ego out of it, it's the causality here, and I'll get to that more later, but I'll just put that slide in here now. So we've already talked about the information and the sound causes form, and we got the memory field. So that's where the memory is stored until it's broken up, fragmented, and or dissipated. Now we are singing. So we said sound causes form. Singing, if you got something in song, it's very easy to remember. You read a book, which paragraph was this, was that? There's some people get really good at remembering long things, but singing is a song is usually quite short. It's very easy to remember, but also those sounds that are being used are in balance with the harmonics of natural beingness, if you like. Some of you may be aware of Beethoven, all those modern, they used all the sacred geometry, like whether they did intentionally or not, but they go afterwards and they find all of the stuff there, and why they're not all of their music, but why much of their music is very I don't know, it's key sound, because it's in balance with beingness, as opposed to some heavy metal, which is like boop, 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 whatever, and just that's the robot mob. Sorry to be so subjective there, but all right. So, like localized consciousness, localized consciousness is the mind. So when we're in this third dimension, we're working with the mind, and if you're at a level where you're working with the core, then, which is the energy that I spoke about before, I've forgot the terminology already. The mind can access other realms of consciousness, but while we're here in the third dimension, using the body that we have and the articles of the body that we have, we'll make a sound. The sound has a frequency, it's projected, and it's entrained in the memory field. and it's easier to install that sound on vortexes, and that's why all ancient temples and major churches are built on vortexes. So the point is this: you put out an antenna, it will deposit anywhere in a third dimensional item, because there's a resonant field there, which is a memory field for that item. Give you an example. You go to a second-hand shop and you can see a couch over in the corner. The closer you get to it, you go, oh, I don't like that. What are you picking up on? Okay, you're picking up on the dross, which is a memory field, because it was a kaka, someone there sitting there with, you know, anxiety, depression, whatever. You know, if there wasn't someone like that, well, you wouldn't feel that. Okay. So you can deposit anywhere. When I do intuitive sensing workshops online, I give people examples of how you can do this stuff. So if you're in an older type building that's been inhabited for many, many years, go near the front door where everybody exits to go to work. Okay. Go to the front door on the inside and feel what you feel. Everyone's going, oh shit, I've got to go back to work. And you just feel all the dross there. It's just like not all places, but I've been in so many places in Sydney, you know, there's 60, 70-year-old buildings, you know, apartment blocks, and you go near the front door and all you can feel is dross, you know, but you walk from the other side and you don't really feel it, but it's inside. So it can be very, very localized in its effect. I'm making these points because when we get to actually singing on the ley lines, as you folks are referring to them, this can be important to some if you're not able to override it with the capacity of the mind. So you can sing anywhere. You sing on lines, it's easier to put the information into the memory field. And if you sing on top of a vortex, they are the easiest places. Okay? That's why, again, all temples and churches, ancient ones, are built on top of vortexes. And then they alter the frequency of mind. They create an alter to alter, spelled differently, similar, very similar sound. Not all of them would have sort of realized that was going on, but some of them did for sure. Gosh, I went to one in France, south of Paris, slightly southeast, I think. And as we were approaching this place, and then parked, and I could just feel all this kaka energy come from this place, and walked over and went in, and there's all these statues and things, and it's really crowded before you get into the place where the people do the worship and that. And it's just got all these artifacts from, I don't know, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years collected there. And there's just so much kaka energy. It's just, I'm thinking, why would you bring young children and stuff to places like this, you know, or even adults, you know, it's just terrible. They're not all like that, folks, but that was just one example. And we've been to a lot of places where there've been very hot energy, but I don't want to get bogged too much down in stories like that here. So clearing. The screen is a big thing that says clearing. Okay, conscious energy, residual data packets are entrained. So when we're using conscious intent, we're wanting to rewrite that. Basically, that's what I refer to as resetting the memory field. So if you got a bit of humbug and you go in there and you use the conscious intent, right? A lot of people use smoke in the clearing process because smoke is a physical article. You can focus on it. If you don't have any smoke and you're very good with the mind, you can just use mind to you. They use smoke in a social situation because younger people haven't learned the mind control yet to a certain level, and so everyone's focusing on the smoke. It's a physical object being combusted, disintegrates into smoke and disappears into the atmosphere for recycling. So it's all a symbol. At any rate, you don't need the symbol once the mind gets really strong. Ameliorating, that's conscious energy, okay? The physical energy, you're never going to shift it. You can make it worse with sick building syndrome, building roads in wrong places, excavation, and all the rest of it. But you can ameliorate it. So we've made dissipators out of crystal, and very small ones, but they work in a house where a room is too bit hot energy, or down the side wall of a house where too hot energy, this type of thing. So it's still there, but instead of a sharp thing that's hitting you, okay, go into a microwave oven and go to sleep. You're going to get hit, you know, okay. So instead of a sharp like this, the dissipated goes, takes the energy is still there, but now it's dissipated and it's more, okay. So instead of cutting a jugular, you've just put a little nick on the skin. I hope do you follow that? Hopefully. Anyway, so ameliorating, because of physical energy always going to be there. If it's in the land, the land. I mean, if it's a building or something, well, they can always take out the building. But, you know, because buildings actually, you know, you've probably all heard of sick building syndrome, and there's a lot of things that happen there where they create stresses and stuff like that. Bridges are really bad, and people sleep under bridges, and they just got all this really cucker energy all the time. It's really hard to get them out of that cycle, because they become entrained in that cycle. They feel secure there because they're not getting rained on, they're not getting snowed on, you know. But in fact, they're in some of the hottest energy fields, you know, constructed by man. Damn walls, same but different. Back to care. Clearing. I did that. Sorry, I was just trying to find out where I am. Okay. Oh, planet Earth, folks. I'm still here. Just got to check the notes here. So another thing with these lines of energy, that you can refer to them as the hardware, all right? And then we program them with intent. So we want to be putting positive conscious intent in there, because what we've got to get rid of is all the humbug stuff that's been put in there for, you know, thousands of years by other mob. And we just do it because it's right? Whether, you know, anyway, that's how I do it. Now, with these lines of energy, there's a relationship between that fella and another fella. And the other fella is water. Okay. Some of you will see that Japanese fella, I forgot his name, that doctor, and he froze the, after putting sound intent into water, and he froze them, and you get all the crystals form a certain way. Put humbug in there, you get the crystals form a certain way. Kids in school, they got a plant and they project love that grows really well. Same plant, same conditions. They project hate and doesn't perform. All that type of stuff. Well, that's water holding the memory there. So when they're cutting down heaps and heaps of trees, that's humbug. If the water that's in there is beneficial memory. I've been to a place in Glebe in Sydney where the trees were so full of dross right outside of a Catholic church, and then we walked down and we found the same, and these weren't Australian trees, they were some species from Europe, possibly oak or something, I forgot now, but they weren't Australian natives, and they were old trees. They'd been planted there like, 200 years ago, and they were just so full of dross. And then we walked down the road and another church and full of dross, and then where all the priests live, full of dross, and then boarding school for the kids full of dross, another church full of dross. And then we're still walking down towards the harbour, and then there's a brick wall on the right, higher than the head. And I said to the lady, hey, that's all really good energy in there. What's in there? And she said, that's the Buddhist temple. And I said, well, let's go in there. So we had to walk down the end of the street and come up the parallel street to get the access in. And I went in there because I wanted to, because it was good energy. There's still a vortex. So that whole region there was all Bora. The original people's Bora, and they put all their churches on it, but they've been doing humbug there for so long. Sad but true. Anyway, so the trees are storing the water, and the water stores memory as well. If you haven't seen that, what that Japanese guy does, with freezing the water and the crystals, take the photos after they've been charged, have a look at it, because it'll validate stuff. And incidentally, just because I say something, don't believe me, folks. do your own research. But anyway, so I'm going to go back to the memory has the ability to affect anything else that come after to some degree or another. Now, this is more for the safety stuff that I'm sort of getting into now. But there's a place outside of Moolumbar, and when you come around the bend on a rural highway, there's a cross, then another one, then another one, another one, you know, grave markers, okay, all in this one spot. And first time I drove through there, I said, oh shit, this is really, excuse the language, this is really kaka energy. And then I also realized it was a really big song line. About a year and a half later, I met old Fred Brooks, who was a dowser of that area. And he said, yeah, he told the council about it, because RTA did all the tests, Road Traffic Authority, they couldn't find anything wrong with the alignment of the road. Why would these accidents keep happening? Well, they coined the term microsleep. People are just going to sleep. So the memory is in the memory field, and then it is triggering people to behave in a certain way, and it's unconscious behavior, and they're having all these accidents there. It happened to someone I knew. He just lost it on the site. Now, what happened was I worked out what happened there. There's because I saw it, because I sat on the memory field and I felt it. And the Europeans chased the Aboriginal mob, and they were gunning them down as they were going along the song line. They're following the song line because that's a safety thing for them. It's something they know, and they're going over to the range of hills on the other side of the small plain there, and they got them a lot of them in this area while they were crossing the plain. So you got all this dross there. Okay. Now the key to this is that it's in the memory field. Consider this to be like a barcode. Okay, a barcode is full of data. So you now have data in the memory field. If you go to the shop and the barcode is on paper, tin or plastic, where you can burn it, shred it, melt it, and you get rid of the data. They put the barcode over a scanner machine, and it reads it, and then it spits you out a bill because it knows what to do. So in other words, the information is in the code, the barcode, and the scanner is reading it. Well, body to you is a scanner, and you walk over the top of these things and you can get tripped unconsciously if you're not being alert, aware, mindful, and you can be tripped by these things because it's there. It's a code. It's already there. It's a trigger. It's an instruction, if you like. It's information for something to come into form. Anyway, so when we're working with some of these humbug spots, we got to be very mindful of protection to us. And if you're not of a level where you're prepared to take this stuff on, or just by happen chance you come into a site like this, and if it doesn't feel comfortable, opt out. Just leave. Okay, because if it's humbug, you don't want to stay in this frequency too long. You know, we've got a lot of hot earth frequencies. You know, compressed underground water, stagnant underground water, dead earth energies, vortices that spring too hot, all this type of thing. They're the equivalent of you know, microwave, radio wave, high voltage power line, 5G, Wi-Fi, all this type of thing. They're humbug to the biomagneto-electric body. So you don't stay in there too long. So I'll just quickly, because this may help someone explain it to someone else later. When when everything's harmonic, you tend not to notice what the stimuli is unless it's you having a good time interacting with nature or another person. But there could be things in the environment that are not, you know, not really coming into mindfulness as a specific, although it could be there. But when there's humbug, you get it. And I'm just going to make this little explanation of why it stands out. Okay. And you're detecting the boing, whether it's in the auric field or whether it's part of body to you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. You get a drum skin and you get all same size pebbles and you put them on there and you get a beat going. They're all happy fellas. They're all dancing together. And then you get one fella and you throw him in out of bed, what happens? Boing, he gets kicked out. Same like if you're two people on a trampoline, you come down at the wrong time, your knees end up in your chin. Okay. So you're detecting the boing. And that is what that's what you got to look out for. If it's all harmonic and everything, that's okay. But you just keep that awareness there for detecting the boing, then being mindful of how bad is that boing going to be, whether you should leave or whether you think you can work with it by fixing it with intent. Okay. And that's the conscious stuff. The physical stuff, you're not going to do anything unless you build a dissipator or whatever. You just don't want to sit on top of it. If you're inside a city and you got one hot energy over the top of another hot, it's really hot, all these different things combining, don't hang around, just leave. No point sitting there trying to work out what's what. Just get out of there, because it's humbug. Now, the other thing is that when we're doing this work, barefoot is best. In cold country, might be a bit difficult, more challenging anyway. Barefoot, connect with the ground. It's electrical current. Your body to use electrical, and all this stuff is electrical. Barefoot, clean pineal. Make sure you're not near any 5G. No fluoride, no aluminium, that sort of stuff. When I'm talking about the pineal. Yeah, I mean, if you've been, doing detox, this, that, and the other, but if you got some things ailing in the body, look after self first, because if you're not looking after self first, you won't be able to contribute much to others. So do what you're comfortable doing safely there. And as I mentioned before, if you want to opt out, you opt out. So there are a lot of places you can find which are nice. They're nice. Okay, and you can do the work. But I know that there's a lot of places, and even if it's in a rural country area, and they're humbug, because things that happen there in the parks, things like wars and whatever. Now, to the lines themselves, most of them are in the ground. Okay, some of them are on top, and some of the vegetation interact with the ones that are on top. And if you're in a desert with not much vegetation, the site stuff with the vegetation is not going to assist you much. Now, the vegetation thing is good, and you'll see different things happening with different types of vibration and frequencies with vegetation. If you tune into senses to you will feel that there's a whole lot more that you're not seeing, because there's no vegetation cue. You're getting a cue from nothing. Okay, so that's why we get people to access the full range of sensibilities. And when I started doing this in a primary school, because I was asked to, this is too long a story to tell here, but I thought, how am I going to work this? Because I'm in a remedial situation. These kids are already 6, 7, 8 years and older, and now I've got to go backwards. What's the easiest way to do this? And I thought, take out the sense of sight, put on a blindfold, and then took them through all these little practical steps to get them to tune into more of their senses. But anyway, that's another thing. I thought I'd just add that there, because if anyone's interested later on, we're going to attempt to do, we won't attempt, we intend to, do some intuitive sensing workshops online. Now, I've been to a couple of places where there's been a hill, and there's been a line of energy there, and then they cut into the side of the hill and then build the house, and the line of energy has now got nowhere to go. Well, it's got the house, and nothing works in the house. Okay, it's like you take a copper wire and you cut out a piece of the copper wire, and the electricity is still going through. Well, if it's a strong enough current, it'll jump to the other side. Okay, but you put something else in there, and it'll also, especially if it's conductive, it can jump across to the other side. If you get lightning, I mean, it's indiscriminate. It just goes to wherever it wants. But at any rate, I've been to a couple of places where they cut into the earth right in it where a line is. And I've been to places where I asked the people why they build there, and they said, because because it's different. It's nice. Can't you feel it? And then I realized that some people equate different with being nice, when in fact, the difference that they were feeling was really hot energy that we would not sleep on. It's not sit down country. And, but so again, you know, if you grow up in a certain egregore, or you have certain influences from others or whatever, and you could easily make the mistake of deciphering something that's different as being nice simply because it is different. It was way too hot to sleep on. And I've been to several places like that where people could feel the vibration, they could feel the frequency, and that felt was good. But we never get asked to go anywhere unless there's a problem. And I tell people, don't tell me what the problem is, because I don't want to be cold reading. I'll just go and I'll ask you if I can go in this room, that room, and that. And in 2 incidents, as soon as we turn up, I saw the problem straight in front without even having to walk into the house. Anyway, all that and more. So when we get to the ley lines and that, there are some that do need more input from people like us, but only if you're ready to take on that level. Okay. I'm sure you all appreciate that people like Rachel has been taken a full on, I don't want to use this thing, but given that Ben was in the military, she has been taken on a full shore bombardment from the dark side. Okay. And if you're not prepared to do that, stay away from the really heavy stuff, even though there are some of us that know that it needs work. Now, when I go to these places that are a bit heavy and they've been using certain symbols and that, I turn away from looking at what they've already done unless I'm confident, because the symbols are a symbol. It's the same as the vibration, or the energy is an energy. It's a vibration. It's there for all to use, but it's whether you use it with love or whether you abuse it with, like these other mob are doing. Okay, so if the symbol's upside down or whatever, and they've deformed it, specifically, you can see they're doing cucker stuff. Well, then if you're not at a certain level, turn away from it. Do the work. Okay, always turn from right to left. I could not tell you why, but all mob here, everything we're doing is right to left. Even when we're smoking, starts and you go around to the left on that circle. Anyway, unfortunately, I'm unable to answer why in, you know, scientific terms that makes sense. If someone in the audience knows, that's good. You can post this text later or whatever. But that's what we do, all right? From right to left. So if we got a room and there's a couch there, well, and you got to, you know, change your direction, go around the crowds, you're still essentially going from right to left. Okay. Now, what else can we talk about here? Within the egregore, people have images that are from the conscious realm, and they may only ever be relegated to the conscious realm. And then they see that as something to follow, and then they're using it here. So what I'm going to refer to here is personifications of archetype energies. And they don't work so well in Australia, or they could do if you're at a church area or something else. But if you're out bush and you're doing stuff and connecting with Blackfellow way, don't worry about the personified stuff. In other words, an archetype energy is turned into a person for purpose of story. And the reason that's done is because humans look out and they copy what they see when they're little. And if you're growing up with a pack of wolves, you'll copy what the wolves do. If you're growing up with a bunch of humans, you'll copy the egregore of those humans. Okay, but a lot of things are manifested as personifications consciously because humans will follow humans more easily than they will a pack of wolves if they had a choice. I hope you get that. Okay, so personifications here, we're talking about all sorts of things that are included within religious frameworks. Now, what I'm not doing here, I'm not having an attack on people's faith. That's there's no issue at all with faith. Just be very careful what you're investing faith in. Okay, because that the archetype energies, the archangels, that's an angle of arc. You want to know why the 33-degree Masons? Why have they got the word degree? Because it's an angle. It's an angle of arc. Then they talk about the fallen angles. They turn them into fallen angels, but they personify all these things. But blackfellows never personified anything. You know, we're using animals and plants in war story and in personal dreaming and that to cover the issue of archetype energies, but not another human. But anyway, I just want to mention that because some of the folks here are international, and whatever you're happy with, but I just want to put that in for those mob here in Australia, because we've done a lot of work on country and with mob, and there's not a real lot happening with all these mob using this stuff from other religions, putting it into the lines, and then we get there and we play the sticks, and just stuff happens in front of us. Eagles appear overhead where eagles, accordingly to the locals, never seen there. Big sea turtles 10 meters away from us, according to the locals, don't exist there. Birds flying in patterns or sitting in patterns, which are giving us all sorts of clues to vibrational effect of causality. I mean, that's what we do. I don't know where I've got these things here. You know, like I think there's someone in the audience that tried to hide these from me one day. But anyway. Okay. The land has heard this. The land has heard this in Australia for tens of thousands of years. And if you're playing right way, it's always for introduction. Okay. Where you're introducing self. It is like permission. It's like asking for permission, but you're introducing self because you're saying that you're not a humbug. And so the only way you can play, okay, that's the sound coming out of there. But what's causing that sound? The heart. It's the heart mind. That's what you're putting out. And if the land feels that heart mind, you don't need any other personifications or all these things that are come together, because it's the self that's doing the work. You're not following anything else. Yeah, it's the self. The power of the self is so powerful, and we do this all the time. It's just second nature. Sorry for getting so excited, but I appreciate that some people know what I'm talking about, and other people probably think, oh, he's off with the fairies. But it's real. There's people in the audience here tonight I've seen. They've been on country with me, and when we're doing these sorts of things. So when you're singing the lines, that's the most important thing. Be you. Be in the heart and stay in the heart. Anyway, I don't know if I run out of time. There's a lot of stuff I couldn't fit in there, folks, and all the rest of it. But I thought I would sort of, leave it at that and see if there's any questions or whatever. I mean, there's so much in this that can be discussed, but the overview here was for the Ley Love Down, because we're in this period now and more people are getting it and they know. So what I've done is an explanation of memory field, how it works, so that its intent, and so that this does actually work. So doing the right thing, and we're doing the right thing because it's right, and that's it. Yeah.
Trevor, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing. From a council estate boy in London, now in Bath, who until 4 years ago was working in the deep underbelly of the city of London, I can tell you that this is a window into an entirely new world. Thank you, sir. No, not sir. I'm not a slave, and neither are you. Thank you, brother. That was amazing. I've made reams of notes from that, and obviously we've got a recording from that. And with your permission, what I intend to do is take everything you've spoken about, draw out the main points, and turn that into a protocol of sorts that members can use when getting out into the lines. And what I'm picking up ultimately is whatever we do it without attachment and without ego. We don't do it to make a name for ourselves. We do it simply because we care. Everything comes from the heart, whatever it is we do. And the simplest activity is singing, because songs, love is a frequency, Light is a frequency. The lines are simply frequency. So we're singing back into that data field in order to corrupt what has been corrupted, to get rid of that data. We are elements of a defragmentation effort, which we're all going to have to get involved in to get rid of all this humbug. Humbug is now passed into nomenclature. Go on.
Yeah. Could I say something there?
Of course you can.
Well, it will corrupt itself. We don't need to corrupt it. It will corrupt itself. It's already corrupted. All we're doing is we're overriding it strongly. Yeah. Because I'm very careful with words, cymatics, sound causes form and everything else. And there's all these intents and the like. So, I fully appreciate what you were saying, but for me personally, I thought I'd just add that in, that, we're overriding it with love. Yeah. Probably even overriding is too strong, or forget it. They're mob. That's their mob, which are us anyway, right? We're just going out there and we're just going to do love stuff. Sorry, I'm just getting carried away.
No, mate. You should always interrupt me when you want to say something like that. So I've got a couple of questions here. We did say 11 o'clock is a hard stop. I don't care. So if anyone wants to stick around and listen, just stick around and listen. So the first question we've got is, what do you do when you live on a ley line or a song line or a dream line? Should you just move, or should you do something to ameliorate it, to deal with it, to live with it?
Well, they're not all hot. There are some soft ones. I was mentioning to someone the other day, we go onto a cluster vortex from a very prominent site here in the eastern seaboard in Australia, and you see they got peckings and engravings and oodles of stuff in the rock. It takes you a long time to do all that pecking. It takes you a long time to do all that engraving. So that tells you the frequency there is not too hot to stay there for a long time. You go onto others and you see their meditation sites, and there's nothing engraved, there's nothing pecked, because it's that hot. You go in, you do the work, and you get out. And many of the vortexes that constitute the Bora grounds, they're quite hot. That's why the little kids are never allowed to go onto them. They're marked with rings and all the rest of it. So it depends on how hot it is, the frequency. And the other thing is that you go into some lines and they're very narrow, and you go into some and they're very wide. And we'd been into some. I had a video somewhere once. We were walking, and I said, "Hey, check this!" And it was like a wall. We got the edge of it. And it was that, and some are really diffuse. You're walking in, and over like 10 meters, you get the intensity gradually builds up. And this other one, it was just like a wall. You can actually put your hand on the edge of it. So there's all different types. So to answer that question, Ben, need to get it assessed. And if you've got this mob that use the modern meters and that, they can tell you pretty quickly anyway. The Gauss and all that sort of stuff. But if you're sensing it, you sense there is an issue, you get someone to come in to assess exactly where the issue is. Because we've had people who have bedrooms, and I said, don't put the baby there.
Yeah.
Wrong place. Put the baby on this side of the house. So that there's stuff going through the house, but where are you going to put the baby? Not where it's in the hottest place. Yeah. Put the baby on the other side. Okay.
Yeah.
And tell the kids, don't use that spot. And put plants there, or do other stuff. Put a dissipator there, or whatever. But don't sleep there. And that's if you're fortunate that it's only a very localized portion of the house that it's running through. But
a friend was telling me yesterday, who lives in Dorset, which is quite dense with ley lines, that they had a property developer who removed a stone, which was a marker for a line. And someone from a local dowsing society came down and said, look, don't get rid of the stone, give it to me. So he took it into his garage and left it there with the point of putting it back somewhere closer at another time. And then they doused it, and they found that the ley line had moved in line with the stone. So the ley line now went through this guy's garage that he'd moved the stone to. Absolutely crazy. But what you're saying is all is not lost. It depends on the width of the line, the power of the line, whether it's got dark in it, in it. Yeah. But stuff can be done. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, just in addition to that, some lines can move a little. And if you think about like how a snake moves, it's a line of energy. There's still the points of where it's coming from, going to, energy flowing through. But they can oscillate. Now we've got a classic of this for those on the eastern seaboard. There's some of you here tonight that Cabarita Headland, I call it Cabarita Headland because that's what I refer to it as. There's a meditation vortex there that the whales are 1.5 K offshore. They come right in, woof, and then they go out again. And all the dolphins are always there. But the whales on migration, and there's other points along the eastern seaboard when we talk to the local mob too. Well, that meditation vortex oscillates. You go one day and the center's there. You go another day and it's there. And it's like a monthly thing. So one of the old timers there referred to it as a lunar vortex. So in other words, that's not a line, that's a vortex, but it oscillates. Okay. So there are a lot of little nuances and different things that are going on here. And, just work with what you know and work with others and build knowledge base of what's going on. But the key thing is, if it's frequency, feel for the heaviness, feel for the dross, feel for the boing. Know that you got to take care in those areas. If you feel that there's a line there, but there's no real heavy stuff or whatever, but the conscious imprint that you get entrained in lines, like I was talking about, they gave the example of the trees with the dross and the stuff with the accident sites and that, like you'll feel that, and you definitely don't want to stay there. But if you're not feeling anything really untoward, then it's probably, not too bad. But again, wouldn't put your house right on the top of it, because there's a matter of dose and there's a matter of overdose. And unless you really know what you're working with, you won't know unless you get someone come along with a modern technology meter and have a read of what's there. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we were talking about kind of drills and skills earlier. So before say I go into a firefight or a training exercise, you make sure your helmet is properly seated, you make sure your weapon is oiled, you've got a round seated, you look in your magazine and make sure the rounds are in the back, you make sure your webbing's done on, you've got your boots tied up and all that kind of stuff before you go into a battle situation. So before you go onto a lay, what are the kind of things that you should be thinking about to get yourself ready and to react or protect yourself if there is bad energy there?
Be as psychologically and physiologically as healthy as you're able to be. Because once you have that base in core, you will be more effective anyway and have greater ability to take on whatever challenge, and have the correct attitude is not to react but to act. Because I use those words as action being a positive response and a reaction being a negative response. That's just me. But be ready to act. And again, if you come across something which is beyond scope to you, opt out. You got to stay safe. If you think it's too much, opt out. Working in groups is good because different people have got different acuities as well. Yeah.
On the hills, there's a phrase: if there's doubt, there is no doubt. Get off the mountain, and that's about following your intuition that you've gone too far. The weather's going to turn. It's not going to work out. So, what we're saying is, if you're in a situation where there is doubt, there is no doubt. Get off, mark it, move on, speak to somebody else. Perhaps get in a group with ley lines, with LLD people. Perhaps speak to Rachel. Reach out to you and say, "There's something going on here. Let's do something about it," but don't do something about it yourself. Get out of there and live to fight another day, I suppose, is what we're saying.
Yeah, different people are going to be at a different level of preparedness,
Cool. So you mentioned earlier about
them,
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I did it again. Thank you, mate, brother, dude. So you said earlier about there was a Google Earth thing that you were talking about. GE. I assume you meant Google Earth.
Yeah.
Were you referring to an add-on that you can get for Google Earth that will show you the locations of ley lines? Does that exist?
Yeah. No, it's the oh gosh, it's the it's not. I think okay. That's the skeletal system. It's not going to show you all the vascular system. Yeah, look, John's got it. He's got it there on his. Yeah.
Oh,
So
John,
someone attempted to download it a couple of years ago and said it didn't work, and I don't know why. And as I said, the PC that I have it on, the laptop I have it on, is the battery looks like this. It looks like Sydney Harbour Bridge, and the technicians won't look at it. They said that could catch on fire at any time. So I have the fan on when I'm using it, and I haven't. Anyway, too long a story. John, if John is able to find the link, I somewhere deep in the archives, I will have the link for where that app is, or add-on, or whatever it's called. But it's magic, But yeah, and I mean, it what it does for us, it validates a lot of things, because we already know a lot of the stuff because of the topography, Blackfellow Way, and it's also in LORE and everything. You know what I mean? You go around the country and you can feel stuff, and then you got an assistant like this, and it goes, oh yeah, well that makes sense. But at the end of the day, if you're new to it, you can start with the assistant, and then go around and make the observations that you're able to make. Yeah.
Fantastic. John, call me baby. Marvellous. Somebody asked whether a safe distance from a 5G tower was around 1,000 kilometres, or to widen the question, what's a safe distance from a 5G tower from a Kate Perry Ultra perspective or a Britney Spears perspective, to make sure that we don't suddenly want to go into a primary school and start shooting people up? Sorry, bit of my dark humour there, but you know how it is.
If that question is to me, the only thing I can say is that I'm not 100% sure. However, given that they put 5G towers in every 100 meters or so on some streets, it tells you that the distance, where it has an effect, is not that great. Now, I could be wrong with that.
No,
so yeah, but at any rate, the safest place to put them, okay, if they're the government, the demons or whatever, the safest place to put them for humans is nowhere. They don't have a place.
I'm not sure they got that memo.
They don't have a place. There's no business here for that.
Yeah,
we know what business they're into, but for us mob, there's no business for that.
No, indeed.
So the further away, the better. But I don't think the range is that great. And Rachel just verified that.
Yeah, the range is not that great, and they do have to keep putting them in very close together. I liken it to DC, the difference between AC and DC current. They have to have all of these wires for DC. It's interesting as you were speaking, Trevor, and I've got to thank you again. That's just absolutely spectacular what you shared, because I was nodding my head to everything. There wasn't a single thing there that didn't make sense to me, and obviously I'm not a litmus test for any of this stuff, but I love the way that you present, because it's so easily understood. You have a gift for that. Some of what you were describing, I really feel that this production of computers and having the cloud and putting all this information into databases, it literally is, and I can see now the progression of it. For decades they've been working up to this, because they're trying to stop what's going to happen very soon with the harmonisation of the ley lines at the December period, where all of that information from the Akashic is then online for everybody. And I think they could see it coming, and they want to control all of the information that's available, but they can't. You can't overlay enough. I think maybe if they had rolled out the 5G sooner, maybe they would have made more of an effect. But I do see it all literally crumbling in very, very quick space of time, probably within 25 to 50 years. Yeah. What they've tried to put together is just going to fall apart. So thank you, because you joined some dots for me as you were speaking. It made a lot of sense.
The comment you make about 5G and its power, I'll just get this out if that's okay, chap. When you start joining together geoengineering, chemtrails and heavy metals, you then join together fluoride, you then join together vaccines. It does show you that this has to be a effort with the human in the pincer, or the human in the center of the effort, because one of those limbs of the dark effort is so ineffectual that they all have to go together. You have to have the fluoride, which will make you more susceptible to heavy metals. You have to have heavy metals because that will make you more susceptible to 5G and non-native electromagnetic radiation. And what that shows you is, A, they're very good and well done. B, we are so powerful that it takes a multi-front spiritual and physical war to disable us as a spiritual weapon. So everyone here and everyone wherever should take a lot of succor from that, i.e. comfort from that, because we're so bloody dangerous that it would take a nation of millions to take us down. So that's I think that's a point worth making. Trevor, I spoke over you. Please go on.
Yeah, no worries, bro. With what Rachel was saying, I just wanted to be supportive in that you've got to apply the appropriate formative causality. So many times I see on these things, and I just stop reading them after time as soon as with a couple of words and go, no, because they're saying, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. Well, they're not doing it. They are attempting to do it, and they have not succeeded yet. Okay, so putting out the appropriate formative causality, that's what they did with the music industry and the movie industry. They got billions, millions of minds putting out that vibration into the memory field. And so you end up creating it. So it kept going along, feeding the same monster as it grew and grew and grew. Fortunately, all the mob thousands of years ago already seen the demise of this, but it's a cycle too, apparently. I'm not going to go into that narrative, but at the moment, we're at this waypoint in this cycle where that stuff is going to collapse. However, if you don't apply the appropriate formative causality and be in the heart and stay in the heart, you could be, what do you call it? Collateral damage, using one of Ben's things, if you know what I mean. And look, I might not be here tomorrow. If I'm not here tomorrow, I'm not here. That's just the way it is. I'm going to be back there. So we do the best we can for the good of all while we're here. I just want to quickly share one thing with that formative causality here, is that when I did the presentations on the original people's social psychology system, one guy on tour, and he said something to me. He said, oh, yeah, but you might all do the same thing. He looked at me, no. I said, where are you from? Europe, eh? Yeah. Okay. I said, well, you got a lot of countries in Europe? Yeah. You got a lot of big cities in them countries? Yeah. All them countries, all them cities, they're all doing different things, but they're all doing the same thing. He's looking at me. Yeah. And then you got all these little villages? Yeah. And in all those places, you got all these families? Oh, yeah. Well, they're all doing different thing, but they're all doing the same thing. And he couldn't work it out. And I said, well, you see here, when we're saying some things up here, and then we're talking about Aboriginal mob down south, and you think that they're different. Well, they're not. They're different, but we're all doing the same thing. And he didn't get it. And I said to him, you know what the difference is? Over there, they're using money as a currency. It's a current. Energy got to flow from A to B. Money is the currency. Here, love is the currency. So we're all different, but we all got the same currency here on this continent, traditional way. Yeah. 100%. I'm not sure why I added that in, but I just thought I'd add that.
Well, if you were moved to
love is the only currency. Love, you can give it away and keep it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's shared,
So much better than Bitcoin. So much better. You can protect it as well. So before we go, there's a chap here who's very insistent, and I respect that, brother. Colin K, who wanted just to come on and make a comment about protection. He refused to write it down. Colin, again, I respect it. So Colin, do you want to unmute yourself and say your piece, brother? And we'll comment back.
It's not that I refused. It's just that
I was building you up, Colin. I was turning you into a rebel dissident. So when you came on, people would be focused on your words. So take it with a positive intent. It's meant.
Well, first of all, thank you. And thank you, Trevor and Rachel. This has been amazing. It's just what we all need. I've done a lot of work on sort of ley lines and things, and I've done a lot of work on dark energy, etc. And just to share something with other people as to what I do when I get anywhere near something like that. If you want to bail out, then bail out, as Trevor says. But I reckon that the safest way is to just connect, first of all, to the earth, however you see Mother Earth, connect to the divine, and make that connection through your heart and feel the energy of both coming into your heart. And I have always seen my heart as being my protection, because when we get that energy coming down from the divine, we suddenly realize that we are that divine being ourselves, and our vehicles of spiritual body, mental body, emotional body, and physical body are purely vehicles on this planet. And in order to purify them, we have to keep working on them. So all I'm saying is the heart, if you push out that love from your heart into your torus field, that is your protection. That's what I wanted to say. It's a useful way of working with it, I've found. I don't find suits of armor or bubbles any good.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you for that. That was really worth saying. Thank you very much for your insistence that bordered on abuse, Colin. That was great.
Good one. Good one, Colin.
Excellent. Well, I think that's probably a reasonable place to leave it. Rachel, do you have any closing words?
Well, I just want to thank you again, Trevor, because I know you actually go out and teach this, and you've done this for us for free, and I know it takes a lot of time and energy to do that, so I really do appreciate it. I know that you're so humble, and it's not because you want any attention, but I do want to just give people some of your links. I want to speak them. We'll definitely have them when we share the video. But I just want to let people know that if they want to contact Trevor, they can go to www.naturallaw, how you would expect it to be spelt, but with the LAW, -SWU.com. So that's Trevor's website. And he's also on Telegram, t.me/TrevorY, as you can see it spelt here. Because I think, we've got a lot to learn from you, Trevor. So I'd like people to be able to find you.
Rachel, it's we.
We, sorry, not why. We, sorry.
Yeah, come on.
When I'm in Germany, or I'm in Germany, and I'm Mr. Y, and I go, I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
When I'm in France, they say I'm Mr. Yes. I say, oh, yeah, no worries.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Doctor Who. This is terrible.
Rachel, Rachel, I don't teach. I engage in knowledge transfer.
Of course you do. Sorry. Absolutely. Yeah.
For those who might not have met me before, teaching, lecturing, education, not necessarily always the intent of people that are involved in it, but really this indoctrination of dogma. So I found an expression in the English language to convey what a reasonable people engage in, and that is knowledge transfer. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. There's business to be you. There's business to you. And within the edifice of morals and ethics, you're free to be you. If you break law, there's harsh punishment. That you could say that's dogma, but anyway, so I engage in knowledge transfer. And it's simple, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
Mergit has just told us that we is how in German.
Oh.
I don't know whether that's deep or not, but anything can be deep if you say it with a nice microphone and then go, after it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Quick podcaster's trick for you there. Marvellous. Well, thank you so much. Oh, and Lucy has just told us it's who in Dutch.
That's correct. So I am Doctor Who when I'm involved.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think we need to start a crowdfund to get some sort of group working out all the different meanings of your name, Trevor, and then some sort of worldwide tour promoted on Instagram. I think that would be an absolute killer.
Well, anyone who hasn't met me yet, folks, I'm blinking a lot because I've got a little fan here to keep the laptop open. Alive. It's drying my eyes out. I'm in a container. I'm in the bush. I sleep in a tent, and I've been because I'm one of those mob that left the job instead of getting jabbed, and I'm in the bush. And I had made sure I got enough battery charge so I could do this Zoom tonight, because I just got a little satellite dish there, runs off battery, and but so I'm so happy.
Trevor, this is Have you got like a buy me a coffee or a Patreon or anything like that?
I don't drink coffee.
Say no. All right. Well,
I grow organic. And very little to do with processed foods. The least, the better. And I connect with the bush here, you know. So, but no, to answer your question, I don't.
Okay. All right. We'll have a think about that over the course of time. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you to all for attending, giving your love to this. Trevor, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. You've done a great service to us in this movement today.
I'm so happy. You know, like if everyone here didn't turn up, we'd be talking to ourselves.
And that would have been fun. But
I would have been still happy with that.
Yeah, 100%. But this is all about intent. This is all about movement, progression, and actually doing something in this 3D realm. So thank you, everybody. Rachel, thank you.
Much love.
Have a wonderful day or evening. And somebody's showing us a rock.
Yeah, Richard. I know Richard. Thanks,
Excellent
Richard.
Stuff. Thanks.
He knows what he's talking about. That's the core. He's showing you the core, a version of the symbol of the core, what I was referring to before. And you look within.
Thank you, brother.
Plasma
right
within.
Go do great things. Do it from the heart. This is being recorded. It will be on YouTube for about 5 minutes, and then it will be on Rumble. So have a wonderful day, all. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, folks.
Roger out.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Biggie.
I'm going to stand here and salute every one of you as you leave the room.
Much gratitude from
just like they would have done in olden times.
Thank you, Trevor, Ben, and Rachel. Thank you, all of you.
God bless.
Yeah, thank you, Prana. Prana did the website for me.
Oh, fantastic!
And we connected. We connected via Rachel's platform.
There we go.
So things just. I was meaning to do it, and I said, you know, Spirit, it'll do it. It'll happen when it's happened. Then, doof, just happened.
Yeah, it's happened a few times.
Prana only just got it up, I think, 3 days ago, something like that. But anyway,
it's happened a few times recently with me. People have just popped up and gone, do you need this? And I've gone, do you know what? I do need that. Yes, please. Perfect. See, people just don't want to leave. Participants 33. That's got to be significant.
Well, good day, folks. Quick story for those who are still here. I went to a party in Sydney when I first arrived there when I was a young fella. It was the evening, and I said good day to this guy, and he looked at me and he thought I might have came from a different country. And he said, no, here we say good evening. I said, mate, where I come from, there's 24 hours in a day, and they're all good, so good day.
Dear, oh dear. Well, I tell you what, Trevor, what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to call it extra time. I'm going to put it behind a paywall. And then I'm going to send you what I make so you can buy a new laptop. How about that? This is the intimate Q&A with Trevor. Right, I'm host now, so I'm going to kick you all out because I need to go and have some lunch.
Yeah.
Much love.
Good to see you, Richard Clark. Catch you later.
Same here, Trevor. When you're in Sydney, look us up, mate, for sure. We've got some more interesting stuff to show you.
Yeah, cool.
Richard Clark, I'm writing you on.
See you, folks.
Cheers, guys. It's a good list, by the way, Richard. Take care.